The Career Achievement Award is the highest honor presented by the MPSE to a sound or music editor. Tonight, the Board of Directors has chosen to honor one of the most respected talents in the motion picture sound industry. His extensive and diverse repertoire have earned him many awards, including an Oscar and a BAFTA. He is an artist and an innovator, Mr. Dane Davis. To present this award, please welcome 3 of Dane's protégés who all went through his internship program and have now become accomplished sound professionals in their own right. They are Mr. Bill Dean, Mr. Jeremy Pearson, and Miss Stephanie Brown.
Well, it's a sound thing, no problem. Before we get started, there's a couple special people who want to congratulate you, Dane.
Hi, Dane. Hello from Warner Brothers. I wish I could be there in person with you to celebrate your Lifetime Achievement Award. How fortunate our sound community is to have you as a guiding beacon of creativity and inclusion. Your lifetime of mentoring and sharing your space with so many who are here tonight, and those you launched are blazing their way as editors and re-recording mixers. Thank you for your amazing creativity, camaraderie, and friendship. My colleagues and I at Warner Brothers salute you. Cheers to you, Dane. It's your night.
Hi, Dane. Congratulations on your Lifetime Achievement Award. You're a true alchemist, transmuting sound through wizardry and artistry. Enjoy and huzzah.
Hi everybody, Lily Wachowski here, coming at you in a video message in a bottle. So happy to be introducing my pal Dane Davis for this Career Achievement Award. He is an amazing artist, and I am incredibly lucky to call him my friend. So when Dane emailed me asking me to record this, he mentioned how much his achievement was in part due to mine and Lana's genius filmmaking. He was laying it on a bit thick. And to be honest, the sentiment feels a little reductive to me, a bit binary, if you will. You see, I believe that I owe as much to Dane in becoming the filmmaker I am today as he thinks he owes me. Yes, me and Lana brought a lot of outside-the-box imagination to the table, but artists like Dane and Zach Steinberg, Bill Pope, and Don Davis really taught us how to become filmmakers, gave us so many tools and a deeper, richer understanding of the mechanics of filmmaking, the history of filmmaking. They opened our eyes to so much, like how many sound effects are actually in a movie, or in Dane's case, how many sound effects are in one sound effect. The answer is a lot. So I look back at our collaborations and I see how much Dane taught us with such care and joy and love. And this kind of practice was the best lesson we could have learned. It's the best thing to me about filmmaking. The thing that keeps bringing me back time and time again is this idea of community. This communal art that we engage in is analogous about what it means to be a human being. And so, let me introduce you to a damn fine one. A teacher, artist, photographer, painter, sound designer, my friend, Dane Davis.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Pearson, and I got my start in sound as an intern for Dane Davis. In the fall of 1998, I moved to Los Angeles and was delivering my resume to various studios around town. While stopped at a red light at Olympic and Bundy, I noticed a sign on a business that said Dane Tracks. I looked it up and realized it was a post-sound house. That was Tuesday. Wednesday, I interviewed with Dane. Thursday, I started as an intern on The Matrix. Sorry, let me clarify. I was now an intern on what would become the ear-bending, game-changing, best sound editing and mixing Oscar-winning The Matrix. That was my start in Hollywood. At Dane Tracks, I got a bird's eye view of the entire post-process, from recording original sounds to the final mix, and spent as much time as Dane would allow. So I was there a lot. I got to be a fly on the wall while Dane worked his magic. I got to witness the initial brushstrokes that went on to become memorable scenes. Throughout it all, he would generously share his approach and thinking with me. It was truly an amazing and unique education that I am forever grateful for. When I heard that Dane was being given this Career Achievement Award, I was very excited for him and wanted to be here for him. Honestly, I was just hoping to hear him say my name and a long list of others who got their start with him. But when he asked Stephanie, Bill, and myself to help introduce him, I cannot tell you how humbled and honored we were. What struck me is that he wanted us, former interns, because we represent his legacy and its lasting impact on the community, and that is what is important to him. So how do you adequately introduce the man who literally poured the foundation for the sound artist that you are today? How do you introduce a man who so selflessly took the time with you to impart his creative wisdom, taste, approach, and nothing is impossible attitude towards the craft? It's a nearly impossible feat to do. The reality is that Dane has always been much more than a sound designer or supervisor. He's been a mentor and teacher to countless people that thrive in our industry and to this day. Unfortunately, MPSE hasn't given me enough time to mention them all, but let's just say, we are everywhere. Looking back, I had no idea how lucky I was that day to see the Dane Tracks sign and how that chance encounter would lead me to where I am today. Thank God I didn't need to check my Thomas guide at that red light.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Brown, and like Jeremy said, when Dane asked us to do his introduction, we were all speechless. Once we got over the shock, we started to reminisce about our time at Dane Tracks. During our discussion, 2 words kept coming to mind for me about Dane: generosity and passion. All of us here have experienced Dane's generosity in some form or another. To the mixers in the room, the 20 tracks of spotted birds for the backgrounds, just in case. To the effects editors in the room, Dane's deep, deep, deep library of effects whooshes. He never met a whoosh he didn't like. There's always a way to sweeten that effects moment. Simply add a whoosh. Need to take it to the next level? Reverse said whoosh. And finally, need that one element to top it off? Add another whoosh to said reverse whoosh.
Oh, sorry, Stephanie. On my last show, the music editor lovingly referred to me as the whoosh department. 2 things popped in my head at that moment. First is that I absolutely needed a shirt made, and second, Dane is really the head of the whoosh department. So in addition to getting your Career Achievement Award, you're also getting a shirt. You're welcome.
I can go on and on about Dane's generosity, but to me, it was obvious from the moment I started as an intern at Dane Tracks. He was always encouraging us to explore and discover unfiltered. He allowed Mary and Julie, other interns at Dane Tracks, and myself to work on a side project that gave us the opportunity to take what we were learning and apply it practically. That encouragement continued throughout my career at Dane Tracks with my partner in crime here, Bill Dean. Dane's door was always open. There was no question that he wouldn't answer, and his advice was always truthful and authentic. He was eager to pass on the lessons he learned from his own experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Thank you, Stephanie. We all in the room know Dane as a creative genius, but most of all, I think of him as a gifted artist with a teacher's heart. The lessons Dane taught me while working with him on more than 25 films could fill multiple textbooks. But Dane is also a great performer, and only he could become a protoplasmic, shape-shifting, pink, levitating globule of charm called Morph for Disney's Treasure Planet. Picture Editorial had temped in some cute-ish animal sounds, but Dane and the directors wanted the character to convey a full range of emotions, all without speaking a single word of language. Through many sessions in the small Dane Tracks recording booth, where he developed a diverse and ever-evolving emotional morph vocabulary, that was where I really got to know Dane. Shot for shot, he would tirelessly vocalize and the emotive ingredients way up in his vocal register, but elongated, because when he pitched up the vocals to suit Morph's size, the rhythm would compact, sometimes down to less than a quarter of the original length. After one long session, he said, "Wow, this acting high up and in slow motion, it's like acting in the fourth dimension." Fourth dimensional acting, Dane. It seems appropriate from the mind who brought us the sounds of the Matrix. Dane's dedication to that little pink alien morph never wavered, and neither did his dedication to people new to film sound who wanted to brighten their futures by starting their motion picture sound careers.
The Matrix presented another opportunity to throw himself into his art. Dane, the mad scientist we all know and love, rented a Jacob's ladder and put it in the tiny client area of his Olympic and Bundy location. He needed to get authentic electric arc sounds for the power plant scene, and nothing less than true dangerous, high voltage as source material would do. Or when he insisted upon riding along with the stunt driver to crash two junk cars into each other while hand-holding the interior mic to make sure it was always in the right place during an epic metal destruction recording session for the freeway chase scene in The Matrix Reloaded. That passion is contagious, and anyone here can attest to that. He has taught us that there is no shame in putting a little bit of yourself into your work. That's what makes it authentic. That's what makes it art. This is what we do. We make art, and Dane taught us that. Respect the work, and you can always walk away knowing that you've done your best.
I'm not sure where our careers would be if we three had not stepped through those fateful doors of Dane Tracks around the turn of the century. We didn't know what the journey ahead would bring for us, all the wonderful people we would meet and the experiences we would have along the way that would last us a lifetime. Now let's take a look and listen to Dane's amazing and talented work from over the years.
See, Dane, this is you. Your passion and generosity is well known and respected. We could not have thought of a more deserving person to be honored for their contributions to the sound community. Congratulations on your Career Achievement Award.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Whoa. Who is this Dane A. Davis guy? Is it me? Or is my body actually in a pot of goo with my mind hooked up to a multi-sensory projection that you are all a part of? Are all of you out there really real, sitting in real seats? You sure? As a wise man once said, how would you know? I was always watching and listening to the world around me. maybe too much. My parents were sort of beatnik hippie artists. It didn't seem weird to them. Our minds were kind of free already. We all did crazy creative stuff all day. Anything was possible and encouraged. When I was a little kid, much of my life didn't seem very real at all at the time. It felt like some kind of dream, nice or bad. But playing army men or race cars or train wreck, my best friend Steve and I knew that what was happening on the floor and the dirt outside was real, because the army men went and the matchbox cars went and the train went honk, honk, There was never any question it was real, until either of our moms broke the spell and we had to clean up all our toys. Then the gunshots and skids and explosions shrunk into a memory. But we had been there. We had been in it a few seconds previously. Some of my friends weren't allowed to have me over, especially for sleepovers, because I could be so loud. So now I get paid and get awards and stuff for I get hired to not grow up. How awesome, really, is that? But I've gotten ahead of myself. Rewind. The DP of the Matrix movies, Bill Pope, used to refer to all of us as the invisible crew. Heard, but not seen from the other side of the screen. If no one can see us, are we real? We're only really visible in this room, if that. It's marvelous to see you all here. Even if 99% of the world's population doesn't know we exist, or know we need to exist, it's still marvelous to see you all here. Thank you, MPSE, for putting me up here. I'm deeply, deeply grateful for this honor. It's pretty amazing, really. Unbelievably surreal, but it's amazing. How did I get here? My journey has taken me through many worlds. Virtual, virtuous, verminous, and vertigo-inducing worlds, through many rabbit holes, wormholes, potholes, and sinkholes along the sprocket holes, into many constructs and many deconstructions, always watching and listening. In the mid-beginning, I made Super 8 films in high school, mostly one roll long, 3 minutes and 20 seconds at 18 frames a second. That was what I could afford to develop. Tiny, silent strips of plastic with itty-bitty holes. And then I would run the projector in the garage where I lived and record a soundtrack, sometimes with my friends, with one square mic and an ancient reel-to-reel my grandpa fixed and lent me. One of many, one not yet destroyed by my misuse. And when I showed the films, I'd start the tape and projector together at the same time with my two hands. Ker-chunk-clunk. And periodically, I'd hold my thumb on one or the other machine to get them sort of back together in time. For every showing I did that. This was the state of the art. In my cinematic world, it was. The most profound breakthrough when I got to film school was actual, consistent synchronization. Whoa! And then it got really fun. Playing with space and balance and the counterpoint of ears and eyes, teasing and tricking the brain. I went there to become Ingmar Bergman Jr., but somehow my ears led me down a different path. My epiphany came when I would use one of those big black filters with a giant high-pass knob and a giant low-pass knob. When I squeezed music or dialogue through different aural windows between the knobs, I would instantly be on the other side of the wall, or in a car, or down the street. Ear-based teleportation. Nothing was the same for me after that. I had always been a visual artist and a musician and a poet, but I heard something snap about what sound could be. I started really listening to what made the world real, or not. Without using a camera, I could put myself into a universe that didn't exist an hour earlier. A universe populated by only me, unless I invited someone. I learned that what we accept from our ears is really crazy. Very little disbelief. Narrative and poetic storytelling, with or without the visual cortex involved. I loved inviting people to those universes. World after world after world, from school continuing out into an infinitesimal corner of the film industry. Some of those worlds put pennies in my pockets. Some, dimes. Most, just promises. Every day, making everything everything somehow real. Real. Every project was personal to me. Everything felt important, felt like art, which is to say, impossible. Impossible to be perfect. Unheard before and perfect. But my youthful exuberance and obsessions and the terror of failing careened me through every day, trying every damn thing. I may think of myself now as a late adolescent. I may think, like a late adolescent, this is impossible, and act like one sometimes. This will never work. But not many teenagers stand up here for this particular honor. Cue the reverse echo. Young as I may feel, I come from the past. I stand here before you, a flashback from the pre-internet, pre-digital, pre-video era. Yes, there was such a thing. Rooms of assistants, splicing chunks of old prints between sprocketed booms and bangs and sentences and gasps. The dubbing stage vibrating every time a mixer pushed the play or stop button. You remember this. I remember well when getting an X rating for sound effects was a badge of honor. Too intense sounding for teenagers. 2 dB down would get us an R. That's how we saved the world. Of course, the road to this podium has been bumpy. Always a really fun sound to create. Fortunately, there have been many moments in the traveling proscenium that somehow really frigging worked, and everyone was happy. Though the very real terror of falling has never subsided for me. I might sometimes fall asleep on the end of the console after all-nighters, maybe. But fear of falling on face was always there. I had a lot of breakthrough opportunities. Not just the 1999 cinematic masterwork I often allude to. There wasn't always dripping green code to decipher. One of my biggest breaks was when 3 super-inspired guys with no money and arty aspirations came to me with a movie called Surf Nazis, about surf gangs taking over Los Angeles after a catastrophic earthquake. It was a fever of creativity, tossing conventions overboard, minimizing the mag and pick fill, but flooding the screen. I got to score a really ugly sex scene on the beach with my clarinet. Eventually, Troma released it with "Must Die" on the end of the title, and it became a cult hit that endures decades later, today, in its own special way. Who knew? But that led to a huge breakthrough with Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, which earned me Square Dance and Back to the Beach and Remote Control, then Warlock and Forever Young and Friday the 13th, Part 7. I say all this to create some perspective and hope for all of you out there that might assume I was launched with a silver spoon, or no spoon, as the case may be. But lots of forks, mostly, in my particular road. Though my gut and my spreadsheet screamed otherwise, I jumped at the chance for any movie that didn't totally stink, for the most part. Every audience watches and listens. I treated every film like a major motion picture, because, as our interns later often heard, from the filmmaker's POV, every movie is the first movie ever made, the best movie ever made, the only movie being made. I weirdly always found something to love about every film, something to seal me into it for the duration of our work, as if it were my own movie. So the moviolas kept clacking, my Fat Mac kept the dual floppy drives whirring, the harmonizer did everything but harmonize. So much fun, so much exhaustion, so many willing and talented co-conspirators, so many impossibilities, many eventually somehow possible. There were so many stories and genres and dramatic beats to define, so many mag units to get built just in time for the stage, then D88 tapes, then 2-inch tapes. So many cars and boats to record, cities to record, country ambiences to record, animals and doors and insects, so much to sample and reverse and pitch way up and way down, things to try and fail, more things to try and fail. Obsessively trying every possibility against picture enough times to be objective. Lots of almosts, and moments to really nail. Realities to believe just enough. Worlds to hear for the first time for anyone. And lots of specifics to make exist. What in the hell would this sound like? I don't believe this at all. The physics are all wrong. I don't believe this enough. I would agonize over materials and textures. Disguise emotionally charged sounds just barely. I'd start with the wrongest possible source material. Totally misuse my rack units. Record some more weird stuff in the wee hours. Watch the picture, watch the picture, watch the picture. Slowly getting less impossible. In Defending Your Life, there was a rotating chair sound hidden somewhere in Albert Brooks's mind. After 26 failed attempts, I found it. For Drugstore Cowboy and Romeo Must Die and other devastating dramas, I joyously painted exterior sounds to play interior emotional states. I had invented bad Bill and Ted robots and then shot at the last minute of mixing good Bill and Ted robots too. We previewed The Hand That Rocks the Cradle 7 times, I think, with a bigger face slug every time the mom finally gives the bad nanny and the audience what they deserve. I had too many hallucinations and dream scenes to count. Battles and battles and battles and battles and battles and battles. And a billion sprocket holes go by. Some wonderful people and amazing movies spool through my life. And when I'm so busy, my 24-hour clock can't possibly squeeze in any more work. 2 carpenters from Chicago make a movie called Bound with almost no money. A masterpiece out of nowhere. In an on-screen duet, an apartment complex handywoman unscrews the sink drain in search of a mob mole's ring, or maybe in search of something else. Making that moment as sensuous and sexy but plausible as possible won the writer-director's hearts. At the time, They had a hopelessly unmakeable script we read while finishing Bound, and we all fantasized about what we would do in another universe where The Matrix actually became a movie, a reality. And the rest, as they say, was my future. We all of you out there, we all dream of a project that pushes us beyond the edge in every possible way in an ecstatic flurry of filmmaking. And sometimes it happens. I had supervised 60-something movies already, but my gestation ended with bullet time and dropping code and Neo hearing himself digitize. My matrices, the universe I still live in, or appear to live in, from my pot of goo in the power plant. I've gotten to work on beautiful films with many gifted directors, including Gus Van Sant and Steve Miner, the Wachowskis, of course, Albert Brooks, Curtis Hanson, film editors like David Finfer and Bruce Green, Zach Steinberg, Richard Francis Bruce, many wild rides with the very sound-savvy producer Joel Silver, mixing a gorgeous poetic film by Betsy Bromberg every few years that reacquaints me with the pure abstraction sound can be. And so vastly many more filmmakers. What a cast of characters in my play. Speaking of characters, as Bill recalled, I got to play one in Disney's Treasure Planet. My voice is somewhere in at least 30 other movies, but shaping the nonverbal speech, emotions, and movement of Morph was a special thrill. Many thrilling hours in the booth with mouthfuls of Jell-O. Various flavors, but so worth it. As I searched for clips to represent 40-plus years of work in that montage you just saw, my life was flashing before my eyes. Days of DVDs. Not just the stories that immersed me, or the workflows that submerged me, but a time framework holding moments from my highly compressed off-screen existence. Friendships, relationships, marriage, babies, parenting, family living, moving, losing parents, all great script material in the margins of making movies. Maybe more real, maybe less real than my second-hand adventures in front of the speakers. So many movies to live, so many crazy stories I'd love to tell. Some of you have endured hearing many of them, or lived through them. Like hearing giggling off screen. Like to record bullets going through walls for the first Matrix. We built about 8 of them with mics between, and the armorer had to fire his constantly jamming Uzi through 2 Bakersfield phone books to slow the bullets down enough, while periodically a lunatic would fire a shotgun into total darkness to shut the frogs up. Not me, by the way. Another time, we built contraptions to shatter glass as high as possible to separate the dropping debris sounds from the breaks. A hell of a mess, but so worth it. Due to insanity, I chose to make all of the Matrix Sentinels out of toys I borrowed from my sons and their friends. Really terrible sounding mechanical toys. I knew there was raw childhood fear in there. On Red Planet, for months, I had to fight to keep the audience inside the Mars suits for 11 minutes. I won. It worked. Nobody saw it. We spent days in the 8-mile Detroit stamping plant trying to capture details of the huge and deadly, but very smoothly functioning and sadly mostly quiet machines. Years earlier, my brother detuned a hoodless Ford Torino to the point where I could see blue flames shooting from the carburetor into the air from a half-mile away. It sounded awesome, accelerating up the hill towards me and my Nagra. He drove, and he's still alive. He's sitting out there. He just told me. I didn't tell him about the flames until we're all done because I wanted to keep recording. I think that said too much. So many stories. So many stories. I love that the future introduced me up here. Thank you, Bill, Steph, and Jeremy. The present future. And to all of the rest of you out there, and the future of the future. I feel like my career achievement might be for contributing to the future as much as I humanly can. We did our best at Dane Tracks to expose our highly motivated interns to the people and processes of high-end sound post-production work, budgeted or not, sitting them down in the back of great stages all over town. Watch, listen, watch, listen, watch, listen. My team and I were all honored to pass on what we had learned and kept learning to such eager absorbers. I'm incredibly proud of so many of you and your trajectories. Thank you for that. We need the MPSE and IA youth programs and the EIPMA to show the future that the fastest way is not always the best way. We're an industry, but we're not manufacturers. We're artists, visible or not. Thank you. Somehow we have to make every little dream sound like it's the big picture. We never know what will emerge from the media bog as a hit, or art, or great art, a classic we help birth. We never know who might keep us busy for a career, or not. No one ever knows. Our crazy, fussy work may actually become part of the culture. Any show might. We have to approach every project like it's Citizen Kane, don't we? I've been thrilled by so much inspired and perspired work over the crew centuries, from so many amazing people, Steph Flack and Julia Evershade, Eric Lindemann, Kim Lowe and Kim Harris, Joni Rowe, John Resch, John Kwakowski, Kenny Kay, Dave Whitaker, Brian Watkins. There are so many people, way too many to shout out, but thank you all for your incredible contributions and for floating my boat. And all the great mixers I had the joy of working with over the years, making it real, making it unreal. Many great people, the many. At the moment, I feel like the one, formerly known as the Whoosh King, or at least I get to be the one for a night. Thank you again, MPSE, for this fantastic honor. And thank you, everyone I've interfaced with in this wonderfully bonkers journey. Thank you, Lisa and Scott and Francine and Jeremy and Ryan for endearing my obsessions. Thank you, Sophia and Dennis, for making me. Thank you, all my friends and vendors and therapists, for gluing me together, often. In the Matrix story, there were 5 previous the ones. In the MPSE story, there were 32, including Fred Brown in 2002. Fred was once an artistic mentor to me about the timing of details. And Walter Murch in 2011, who freed my mind. And Frank and Ben and Gary and Steve and Randy and Skip and Richard, whose work inspired me so much, so many times along the way. All I can ask is for that cycle to repeat itself someday. The next 35, the ones, are sitting out there somewhere. Thank you.